Hey up troops, welcome back to the Litanah Army. I'm Lit and this is Fortnite Save the World. In a fashion, we're doing a bit of a podcast today. I wanted to speak to DemonJoeFrance. How's it going, Joe?
It's going pretty good, my dude.
And what we're talking about today is we just want to go over like the future of Fortnite Save the World, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts a little bit, John, like what you think, where the game's headed. And I know we've got really cool things coming up in the short term, which I think's kind of changed a lot of people's perceptions on Fortnite Save the World as a whole, you know, because now things are happening. We all had that bit of doom and gloom feel about the Paragon thing that happened. Yep. No one talks about, you know, and we all thought, you know, this could be us. I know David Dean's mentioned that in the past before about the Paragon incident, should we call it? But, you know, long term in the game now, with all these changes coming up, with the meeting the Twitch creators, do you know, how confident are you in the future of the game at the minute?
Currently, I've honestly never been more confident for the way that the game is going. I think it's pretty obvious that Epic Games cares about the future of this game. You know, with the Storm King in particular being the most prime example of them upping the ante in terms of what they're here to do, the content that they want to produce. It's been months of just, you know, normal content. And when I say normal, I mean a new weapon, a new hero. You know, here's a slightly different game mode from normal.
Reskins.
Yeah. And then now we get something 100% unique. You know, we're getting rewards in real life because of, you know, achieving what you do in the game. And we're even going to be seeing the Storm King in earlier zones and in later zones. So it looks like they're truly focused on an end game as of now, seeing as they literally just wrapped up Canny Valley. So yeah, I mean, 2019 is going to be good.
The scope now that they've got the boss fight is absolutely massive because, you know, potentially we've got like, I know that's just one boss fight, but you think about this and it's just the direction they could go with these kind of theories that I've got here. But you could have potentially like 15, 20 bosses like you had, for example, in World of Warcraft, where you have the instance bosses where you get different stuff from that. But they could just take the story in different directions, or they could do a more battle royale approach where it's kind of a new event, a new boss each time to get things. But, you know, that's got a huge potential, I think.
I've even seen Reddit talking about seasonal bosses.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
You know, it could be around the actual seasons of Earth, or it could be around the Fortnite season. So, like, you know, this is Fortnite Season 7, we get Storm King. Well, you know, Save the World Season 8, we could get, you know, whatever. And for the rest of Season 7, you know, as time progresses, you know, just like Epic has said with rolling it out in earlier zones and later zones, what they could do is say, for example, Season 8, you know, last season we had Storm King. Season 8 we had this boss, and a few weeks later they introduce him into this zone as with more mechanics and more difficult, and then, you know, over time build off of that boss and then make seasonal bosses that we can visit later on.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember as well, the game's not finished. So I mean, you know, we've not really got a Stonewood biome per se, you know, and we've not got Twines finished. I know the story's done down there. I think they should change the Stonewood biome at some point, and then eventually, you know, when Twine's finished, and we've got these boss battles coming in as well. The actual, you know, the distance this game could go, all of a sudden, to me, I think is now wide open. All of a sudden.
Oh yeah, the possibilities. Honestly, Epic has really shown that they know how to create PvE content. You know, at first it was kind of like a whole Bungie situation. You have this company that is tackling something that they've never really done before, so it's going to be a little rickety at first, just how the release of Destiny 1 was. And so now,
I didn't think you'd want to talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But, you know, for Fortnite, it's been out a little over a year, and now we're just starting to get something that resembles a raid encounter or a dungeon encounter.
Yeah, I mean, in dev terms, that's quite fast, really, isn't it? When you think about some other games, it's quite quick, really.
Especially, you know, the game obviously is in early access, and we just now got pretty much 75% of the story done. And whenever it comes down to what's the future of Save the World, we quite literally have an entire year, being 2019, dedicated to Twine Peaks.
Yeah, exactly. So they could make that awesome.
Oh yeah, it could be, you know, they could release it in stages like they did Canny Valley. They could release it all at one time. You know, they can, they're obviously going to release a boss fight or some sort of meaningful encounter, I believe, because they just set the precedent with the Storm King. So if they didn't deliver with something equal or greater, they know there's going to be backlash.
I had quite a lot of confidence looking at the dev update that they did though, when they had the do you know when they was showing like the studio, the music studio, when they had the sliders, and I did a voice actors video recently. I didn't realize there were such high profile voice actors in Fortnite Save the World. I mean, some of these have been in like big Hollywood blockbuster movies and stuff like that. So this is kind of they're not going to invest that much money into this side of the game just to think, well, Battle Royale's doing well now, we'll just leave it kind of on the shelf. And I think they really want to show willing now, and I think a lot of stuff's coming together. They've kind of found their feet with Battle Royale, because I think they've kind of landed that, not knowing not knowing how big that was going to be, because it's huge. I was going to a shopping centre in the UK yesterday. We were doing some like last minute Christmas shopping, and there were Fortnite action figures that we saw. There were a guy at the tattoo shop that was in there, actually he had Fortnite tattoos in the window. Obviously not for kids, but you know what I mean. It's just like, just to show you the kind of scale where that's going though. That's massive. So Epic Games all of a sudden had this huge game on their hands, and at the minute they're probably one of, if not the, hottest developer on the planet right now. So it's kind of like they've got a lot to, they've had to make some quick adjustments, which I think they've done pretty well. But I'm quite excited so far, for what's coming out and for the new stuff that's on its way. I think it could be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that Save the World was in full-blown development at the launch of it. Battle Royale happened, and like you said, Epic really didn't know what was going on. So they quickly scrambled to try to take hold of the opportunity they just got gifted.
Which they've done well,
and,
I
think. Plenty of developers went over to Battle Royale. Save the World pretty much halted for a while. Yeah. And, they got Battle Royale to the point, just like you said, where it's pretty much where they need it to be. I would say that Battle Royale is probably at the peak of its popularity. You're
potentially.
You're probably not going to get too much bigger. I mean, you could maybe, Epic Games might introduce something completely game-changing like they seem to do quite often. And just completely revolutionize something.
But that
Battle
might be
Royale's
why they've brought the creative mode, why they've brought in the playgrounds mode, because they're probably looking at the longevity of this game as just a 100 man battle royale is not sustainable, because you've only got to look at Team Fortress 2 and some others. People will eventually get bored, or there'll be other games that come out that will just top it. And I think they've got to have them other modes in there to do that. So I'll be keen to see where they take the creative mode. I think that's going to be bigger than what people think.
Oh, it's definitely going to be pretty huge, because Fortnite nowadays has become a game that holds other games in it. You got, Save the World, which is the PvE. You got Battle Royale, which is the competitive multiplayer. And then you got Creative, which is Minecraft, Halo Forge mode. You got, pretty much everything in one little package. And they're pretty much, Battle Royale's where it needs to be. So now they're focusing on other things. And we see that through the creative mode. They obviously have the resources to put towards creative mode. And after the Storm King boss fight, they obviously have the resources to put towards Save the World as well. They got Canny Valley Act 3 out a lot faster than I think every single person it was expecting. And I think that they're starting to dilute the resources from Battle Royale. They're like, okay, we got this where it needs to be. Let's focus on some other stuff to keep this game kicking.
And so I think that's showing, which is good. I mean, I think the fact that, as I said, the fact that they invited like Criddle and all the other people over to the actual HQ and stuff like that, I actually think that's a positive show of, a kind of show of motivation, if you like, from them to kind of show, look, we are working on this, it's happening. And I think that was as much a PR stunt as it was to get their ideas, as if to say, look, we're bringing creators. These creators are going to tell everyone, look, we're going to Epic HQ. We're bothered about the game. I think it was much a PR thing as it was an actual, educational or a work thing, if you know what I mean, in that sense, which I think is a great thing for Battle Royale, for Save the World, shall we say. As a whole, and I actually think they're now showing a lot more willing, and I think it was a staffing issue before. I actually just think, like you said, they had to plow all the resources into Battle Royale to get it where it's got to, and now they can start saying, okay, you guys have been coding for this or working on this, you can move over now, we've got this.
And for the longest time, too, they did put their resources in Battle Royale. That left people thinking that, Save the World was not the favorited child. Obviously, Battle Royale
we've seen the
was the favorited child. And and even Criddle, whenever they went, Cylon Allura, Isherwood, Rounded Tic Tac, Critical Cradle, all those guys. I'm sorry if I missed one. Those guys went to Epic HQ. Criddle himself was talking on one of his live streams. He said that the biggest team that is at Fortnite has to be the art team, because you got people that are working on so many different things, all these different skins, heroes, and what have you. But what he said is that it is the biggest team, but it's split up. You got people that work exclusively on Battle Royale, people that work exclusively on Save the World, and you actually got people that work on both. Yeah. So for the people that work on both, what we learned through the Earhart constructor, if people paid real close attention on Reddit, is that the developers were actually working with the Battle Royale team. Save the World and Battle Royale were both being considered when that turret was added to the game.
Well, that's kind of good news. That's promising.
Oh yeah, and you see that they work together on certain things. And I think with the most recent update, people have complained about, all we're getting is a Ralphie's Revenge. Well, you look over at Battle Royale, you see that, they have this whole new sword. It's pretty freaking dope. It's from a whole nother Epic Games title that's coming to Battle Royale. But what people aren't thinking about is that, well, maybe they did the same thing here. The Save the World team and the Battle Royale team could have got together on this one idea, and we might see that sword in Frost Knight 1 week from now.
I think potentially we will. I've just been speaking in the Discord about it. I pretty much think that's coming. That's on its way.
They even called it a mythic sword. And the only rarity that is mythic in the entirety of Fortnite is from Save the World.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of wording right there little bit gives it away, possibly. I don't want to get people's expectations up too high.
Demon Joe said it, guys. If it's not here, he's lying.
I do want to make mention, though, that they did work together on the mounted turret feature, and I 100% believe that it's possible that they work together on that new sword, the Infinity Blade, for VR and Save the World.
What do you think? Someone mentioned about, the Infinity Blade, sword, whatever you want to call it, and also the last word. What do you think about Epic taking names from other, other games, movies, things like that? Is that I don't think there's copyright issues. They seem to change it just enough to make it, this is different because it's X, Y, Z. Do you think that's a deliberate thing, or a bit of tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, or do you think that they're just kind of pushing the luck a bit? My Discord's got kind of mixed views on it.
Whenever it comes to copying emotes, quote unquote, and copying the names of things, obviously, legally, you can't copyright that. You can't copyright the dab as an action in and of itself. You can't copyright the floss. Yeah. I mean, it's a dance. You can't copyright an action that somebody can do. And more than anything, it's a smart business decision, whether or not it's right. I kind of feel like royalties should be paid to people that come up with certain things. But then again, if you start to try and monetize certain things, like monetizing the name of something or monetizing a dance in and of itself, you're kind of getting into a little bit of a dangerous zone there. Yeah, before too often you start flossing out in the middle of the street and somebody's going to sue you for doing their dance. So is it right? Not necessarily, but is it realistic? I'd say it's realistic. I don't think they're going too far with it. I think that people just kind of overreact. At the end of the day, it's a business, so it should be expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that takes us on nicely, actually, to what I wanted to just ask as well. David Dean was talking about how Epic Games are revolutionising, the whole development industry and things like that. And they've recently launched a new games platform as well, which has been pretty cool. I saw David playing one of the new games on there. I've been playing Ashen, I think it is.
Yes, Ashen is a good game.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yes.
But what do you think about that? Do you mean, is it going to be enough to eventually rival Steam? To me, it seems actually better for developers than it does for consumers at the minute with the current build as it is. But, what do you think about the actual, what do you think about the setup there?
As far as the Epic Games, voice crack, as far as the Epic Games launcher is concerned, I 100% believe that it has the potential to overthrow Steam, 100% without a doubt.
Because there's not much competition there at the minute, is there? You've got Galaxy of Gaming and a few others, but they're nowhere near the scale that Steam are.
See, the problem with competition with Steam is that, Valve started up Steam at a perfect time whenever there really wasn't much going on in terms of, hey, there's this one area you can get all of your games at.
Yeah.
And then later on, developers, like we're seeing with Epic, for instance, Bethesda and EA and even Activision Blizzard have all attempted to make their own launcher and, make their own platform where you're going to find their games at.
Yeah.
The thing that Epic Games has, they got multiple things on their side here. For one, it is the best platform for a game developer to put their game on. They are going to make the most money out of putting their game on that platform.
And the audience is huge at the minute. People who are going to see that game on there is massive. Just because Fortnite's got such a huge following, anyone who opens up to play Battle Royale or Save the World just sees that store button, you've got a lot of eyes on your game all of a sudden.
They don't. That's another thing. They don't have to get an audience put onto their launcher. They already have it there.
Yeah.
EA needs to go out and publicly announce, hey, we got this thing now. If you want to get our games, people got to go out of their way to do it.
Yeah.
Millions of people already play Fortnite. And PC is usually where you're finding more of the hardcore player base. Most of your player base is going to be on PS4. It's just the most sold console.
Yeah.
But PC, you still have millions of people on there, and they don't really got to do anything to see these new games. They're just right there.
Yeah.
And these game developers, they're like, I might be taking a risk by not taking Steam because less people will see it. But then again, Fortnite's the biggest game in the world, and all those people are going to see my game.
Well, I've spoke to a few games developers recently. I mean, one this morning I was speaking to, I know he's got a new game coming out. I don't think he's announced it properly yet, so I'm not going to, not put it out there. But, he's really weighing up between, do I go Steam or do I go, which is an established platform, or do I go on this new Epic launcher? He'd actually make more money, and it's more lucrative to him to actually go on the Epic version. And because there's fewer games on it, believe it or not, with all them eyes on it, he's actually got more chance of being noticed. So I think he's probably, and I'm surmising here, he's probably going to go down the Epic way. But that just shows how it's appealing to developers already. So, there's a lot of potential there. It's good timing, I think, from Epic.
It's very good timing. And the thing is that, whatever that developer chooses, there's one more thing that is huge. And that's the fact that Steam does not have this. No other platform will ever have this until they decide to rival Epic Games. Yep. It's content creators like you and me, and they are appealing directly to us, and they're like, hey, you want to make a living doing your job? Even you want to make it easier? Then here, have this referral link to this game that's on our store.
Yeah, how cool is that?
You have content. You are incentivizing content creators to go out of their way to make videos on games that are on this launcher.
Do you think Steam are going to follow that pretty soon? Do you think Steam are going to start saying, if someone comes from your channel to our game now because Epic are doing it, we're going to start? But that might be too little too late because Steam's huge.
I think, honestly, the only time that they're even going to think about doing it is if Epic Games starts to gain even more traction, because this Epic launcher is very new, but honestly, in my personal opinion, I'm not the smartest dude in the world whenever it comes to business, but I think that Valve better start doing something soon, because they have, Epic Games has creators on their side, and they have developers on their side, and they have the entirety of the Fortnite player base on PC on their side as well. So a lot of stuff is looking up for Epic Games, and if the Epic launcher becomes successful, I won't be surprised, not one bit.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, I mean, I've worked in business for absolutely years. Obviously, don't know everything about business whatsoever, but I just think the potentials there is huge. The only thing that's probably looking down for Epic in one sense is that Steam have got so much history behind them, like a wealth of history. It's a huge brand, like a mega brand on the PC side of game. And if you've got a PC and you do games, you've most likely got Steam. And, Gabe Newell, who, looks after, Steam or owns Steam, he's probably looking at that thinking, loads of these launches have come and gone. We're not worried. However, I just think this one could be different. Galaxy of Gaming's been along, G2A came along, Blizzard have tried it. There's lots that have tried different things, but they've never really took off. Blizzard was one. I thought Blizzard were a little bit greedy because they didn't really put many other games onto their launch. It was like, they're just Blizzard games. It's just our games. And our games will always take precedent over anything else. And I kind of thought at the time when World of Warcraft was at its height, they should have pushed that a bit more, and I think they could have got more people over, and they would have been in a different position to what they are now. Not that they're not in a healthy position, but they could have been in a different position to what they are now with, a lot more options than what they've actually got.
And, it's good that Steam has that established player base that has been there for years. But there's also a great number of users that are honestly tired of Steam in the sense that the program, it updates like every single week. And you don't really notice what happened to it. You're constantly having to update the program, and there's plenty of people that are kind of tired with it, and the fact that the games that they put on there, with Steam, you're having constant updates, which can get pretty annoying after a while. But the main thing is the quality control on Steam. The certain games that they have on there, some of them are absolute garbage. And they should not make it past whatever kind of testing that Steam does. I think Steam is just trying to get the most games for the most money. And I think if Epic Games is careful in the games that they choose, I saw that they got Subnautica on there.
That is awesome.
It's going to be there soon. Yeah, and that game's really, really, really hyped up. It's really cool, and it's an overall pretty good product.
I saw that. Is it going to be free? I saw there was a window where it's going to be free. I mean, anyone who's not got that game should pick it up, because it's probably one of the greatest games I've ever played.
Oh yeah, they could do stuff like that all the time. Epic can afford to have these free deals on games. If somebody's been looking for Subnautica for a while and they hear that the Epic launcher is going to be having it for free for a limited time, they're going to download the launcher. At first, they're only going to play Subnautica, but give it a few weeks and they'll be going through the store. They're like, there's a lot of good games on here.
Exactly.
I want to check them out.
There's already, the selection's small at the minute, but it's actually, they are all good quality games at the moment, so maybe they are taking that kind of path anyway as it goes.
Oh yeah, and even as far as developers go, I like how Epic Games pointed out, they said that they're not going to promote any game whatsoever on a game page. So say I release a new shooter called Joe of Duty. Well, they're not going to have...
I would play that game.
Somebody's going to click on Joe of Duty. Yeah. They're not going to have new Fortnite season at the bottom advertisement. It's going to be 100% my own game page with no competitors or anything in front of it. So they give the developers a lot of freedom whenever it comes to posting on their platform.
The new and trending page and most popular pages on Steam are probably the main ones that get looked at. I saw some stats somewhere that something like 88% of people, they're the only pages that they look at. So all the other pages, the RPG pages and everything else, people just don't look at them. Even upcoming games, to a degree, is not all that looked at. People, have viewing habits, and they all tend to go down the same kind of way. One thing I wanted to ask as well, then. So just we'll just kind of finish off a little bit here, but I just wanted to say, so the future of Save the World. Let's just say that in 2-3 years' time, if all went really well, the DemonJoeFrance way, all goes really great, where would you want Epic Games to be in, say, 2 years' time? Where would you want Fortnite Save the World to be, not Epic Games?
2019, I want... Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be 2019, but sometime in the nearer future, I want Twine Peaks, the biome, to be done. I want the storyline to be done. I want whatever grand boss fight we have to be done. But I also want a Plankerton biome, a little bit of a Plankerton rework, because I remember specifically there's like a quest where you're supposed to liberate Plank Harbor or something, and it's like this whole area in the game that could be its own sub biome, kind of like how we got the Ghost Town recently. So Plankerton needs a lot of work, I'd say, because it's an exact copy of Stonewood. It's supposed to be like a marshy swamp area. Or
they could just rework the Stonewood one, kind of swap them around. I don't know. Depends how the story goes. Some sort of jungle swamp biome would be awesome. I don't know if you saw on the news thing that I did the other day, I actually put a swamp biome in the background for that reason, to kind of hint at, this is kind of what we want.
But Twine Peak, we need the essentials done before we really focus on anything else. But the funny thing is that, the essentials are pretty much almost done as is. As soon as Twine Peaks is over and, we go to the year 2020, say, for instance, I want to start seeing dungeons and raids and repeatable content be a normal thing in the game. I want to see cosmetics be a thing in the game. I want to see...
What about on Reddit talking about bigger groups? So potentially for big bosses, having groups of 8, 16, bigger groups just for that particular boss, where you all kind of spawn in on the map and it's kind of, right, you've got to take this guy down. That could be pretty cool.
I think the most I could ever see in a group as for heroes are concerned is probably 8. Probably would be
Yeah.
pushing it a little bit. That way you could have 2 of everything. You'd have 2 constructors, 2 outlanders, 2
Yeah.
ninjas, 2 soldiers.
Yeah,
It'd
it'd be
make
good
the
if the
most
game was
sense.
difficult enough that you needed to do that as well. Do you know, in World of Warcraft, you had the Holy Trinity where you had to have like damage dealers, healers, and tanks. Do you know, it'd be good if you're like, you've got to bring a constructor. If you don't bring a constructor to this, you're not going to be able to do it. I think, and Destiny's kind of like that as well. Do you know, in the fact of the raids, you've got to be so coordinated in the top end raids. And I think that's something Save the World's missing. The game's pretty easy on the way up now. And I think if the game it could stay as easy as what it is now to bring people in, because from a business perspective, the entry level of that then is absolutely fantastic. because it actually works. A kid who's 10 could pick it up and play it and have a good time. But then if you got to the bosses at the end, it's like, this is where you're going to have to start communicating, coordinating, and it gets tough. For me, that would be an ideal game.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get the first little taste of that as soon as they introduce Storm King into Twine Peaks. I hope that they don't go the route of just giving him more health. Hopefully they introduce like another mechanic or 2 mechanics that go into defeating the boss. And then that can be the next in-game content, or the current in-game content, I guess you could say, until they get to work on other things. So,
by a new mechanic, do you mean like with Destiny? I call them dance fights, where you've kind of, someone's got to be stood here, and then you can DPS from there. If the boss makes this action, then you've got to move over to there. Just kind of make it so that there's a bit more going off in the actual fight. It's coordination, isn't it?
Make it important enough to where you need to have like, hey, this person's going to be dedicated to killing the husks and keeping them off the team. This person's going to be dedicated to stunning the boss. And then these 2 people are going to be dedicated to doing damage on said boss. So just something like that where each person feels important in the fact that they have a specific role, and make it hard enough, not too hard, but make it hard enough to where it's a rewarding experience. And it's something that you can keep coming back to and playing, just like Destiny raids. Plenty of people do that.
Did you ever play GTA? I'm sure you did. GTA 5. Did you ever do the
heist?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do you know what I loved about that is we used to play. I remember laying on the living room floor, and my friends were all out in their houses. Everyone was all where they were, and so we're all on like the Xbox like link up thing, and we're all talking on there. But everyone's got a different job. So it's like, my friend Adam's going off to go and get this plane, and then my other friend, he's going off to go and, get a car for this heist thing. Yeah. We're getting a costume to go and put the masks on so that we don't get seen when we go and rob this bank. And it was like, and then at the end of the mission, it all came together. And it's like, if one person fails in their little bit that they're doing, and they were all difficult, especially on the harder ones, if something went wrong on that, the whole lot failed. But when it all came together, what a great feeling that was. I can't believe they didn't carry that on, they didn't do more of that. They kind of made them and said, we're not doing any more of it. But something like that in Save the World would be so cool. And I don't mean, you don't have to go that far out of it. But something on the map where it's like, right, you've got to go around and get, maybe you've got to kill so many husks first. And then once you've done that, and you've got to do it in a time frame maybe. And then once you've done that, this person's got to power up this. I don't know how they would do it yet. We're kind of talking a bit off in the distance here, but it could be really good if they kind of bring that all together, where there was a sense of achievement for everybody being coordinated, whatever that may be.
Well, the exciting thing is that we might see something very similar with Frost Knight, because in the little bit of gameplay that we've seen, we know that there's a mode that lasts an unlimited amount of time.
Yep.
And that the only way to keep yourself alive is by collecting blue glow. What you could do is you could have a role as somebody that goes out to collect blue glow. Maybe somebody goes with them to keep them safe, and then you got 2 people that stay at the base. In as simple as that is, it's still a beginning. It's still a start for more complicated things. So
I think we're going to start seeing teams and stuff like that on that.
Yeah.
Like people getting together in teams and just playing the endless mode. So once they reach the end game, just how far can we get? And that's kind of going to be your status as to how good you are at the game, kind of thing, potentially.
And if it's rewarding, if the endless mode is rewarding, then that will be our end game for a while. If we survive, if we survive like 30 waves, we get guaranteed legendary perk up and guaranteed schematics or whatever. 20 waves you get epic, 10 waves you get rare or whatever. And then that can encourage replayability. I don't know, world record attempts for the farthest way into the endless waves and whatever. But I think that honestly that's another thing, just like the Storm King, which is a start of something that's eventually going to be pretty complicated and pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the gamification side of it as well is pretty important, I think, because do you know, like, in a lot of games you have like achievements. So on like your PlayStation and your Xbox, you get like your achievements for when you achieve certain things. I think that could be a good thing in it. So that, say if I've only ever reached up to wave, I don't know, 35, for example, that's the highest I've ever gone, and I all of a sudden finish wave 35, some sort of indicator in game to say, you know, new record, just for me, you know, to see, say like new record, or even if you could put a team together, new team record, you know, you're now on like 42 or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then save them stats somewhere where we could look back on them and think, you know, that's pretty cool.
Well, they could have like a whenever
Stats
you go to
page would
the
be awesome.
yeah, like a leaderboard.
Yeah.
You go and you go to like the Frost Knight page or whatever, and it's like you're selecting a zone, but this area on the map looks like a zone. You highlight it and it says leaderboard, and it's like this little drop down menu.
Yes.
You know, Litanah #1 made it to wave 75.
Yeah,
and,
that'd
you know,
be cool.
David Dean made it to whatever, and you know, it could be
You could have like top 10 this week, or friends list. I was going to say that next.
It could be a friends list, global platform, you know, whatever you're doing. I think it'd make pretty excellent reason to keep playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then, Joe. Well, we're going to leave it there because you know what? Well, like, I could talk to you for hours, bro. Honestly, I could. But yeah, let's call it. So we're agreed then. I think the future's looking pretty bright for Fortnite Save the World at the minute.
I think anybody that thinks that the future is looking pretty grim has obviously not paid too much attention to what's been going on recently. If for some reason you think that the game is going down a dark path, you might want to look around you because we got some pretty awesome stuff coming.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, look, massive thanks for watching, as always. Hopefully, we're going to do a lot more of these little video chats and thing. Joe's one of the few people who uses a face cam like myself. So hopefully, you know, once we can get A1 to do his face reveal anytime soon, David Dean, I'm sure, is going to get a webcam pretty soon. Aiden has got the longest hype and wait for a face reveal I've ever known. Aiden, get on with it, bro. Come on now. You know, but once we've got everyone's, you know, on the face cams, I think it'll be great to have like conference calls and things like that. And I think that'll be a ton of fun as well. But put your comments down below, guys. If you've got any comments on anything me and Joe have spoke about today, then make sure, you know, you let us know down below, and hopefully Joe will jump back into the video at some point and have a quick look and answer some of your questions as well, if that's all right with you, man. I'm sure it is.
Yes, sir.
All right, massive thanks for joining me, Joe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care now.